Seong Nae, and welcome Professor Kim to National Children's University. Professor Kim is currently a visiting scholar at the Department of Sociology, Soochow University, and she's also retired from the religious studies at Sogang University. And so Professor Kim researched on the anthropology of religion, focusing on Korean religions and shamanism, ritual studies, memory studies, and gender studies. And shall we give the time to Professor Kim?
Thank you. I'm very happy to visit this university, and particularly this International Center for Cultural Studies, because I joined the publication of International Cultural Studies 20 years ago. I was one of two Korean editorial board members when this journal started. In order to make this journal, Interracial Cultural Studies, together with these Taiwan scholars, Quan-Shin Chen and the Singapore sociologist, what his name, and many other Japanese and Australian scholars get together, prepare for the publication of this journal for 4 years, since 1996. So I'm so happy to come to make a visit to this place, this institute, in memory of this initial very active interaction with Asian global scholars, and I'm so glad that you continue to publish this journal even now. And I'm from that experience of production of publication of this Interracial Cultural Studies, I started making this Journal of Korean Religions, published by Institute for the Study of Religion, Religious Studies at Sogang University. It launched in 2000. 2000, I forgot the year, 2010. So it became publishing twice a year, 10 years now. So today the talk to deal with the ritual mediations and the post-memory of the Cheju Massacre in Korea. And this theme has been my life work for over 40 years on Jeju Island. So it will be interesting to see. Finally, I come to the moment I deal with the dead, actually, and realistically who were killed during the Cheju Sasam April 3rd incident in 1948. This incident, Cheju April 3rd incident, which I call it Cheju Massacre, very similar kind of the case of state violence against its own people in Taiwan, 228, Emerita incident. So the reason why I came to Taiwan after my retirement was to study or research on Taiwan Emerita incident. And it has been 6 months, and without learning Taiwan language is very hard to do research, but I got some assistance from Taiwan student. So my presentation was based on my lifelong work on Cheju Massacre incident, but also it includes some of this Taiwan and Asian kind of violent incident in the post-Cold War era. Okay. Next. But it's a historical background. It's related to the work of the dead in post-Cold War era. The Catherine Valery, in her book, Political Lives of the Dead Bodies, published in 1999, talk about the politics of the body, dead bodies. Particularly, she related this, the political symbolism of dead bodies, to the politics of reburial in post-socialist work. And she argues in the book that now dead bodies have a posthumous political life in the service of creating a newly meaningful universe. Their political work is to institute ideas about morality by assessing accountability and punishment, to sanctify space anew, to redefine the temporalities of daily life, to line people up with alternative ancestors, and thereby to reconfigure the communities people participate in, and to attend to ancestors properly, so they will fructify the enterprise of their descendants. My research has focused on this, has been focusing on this, the legacy of the 20th century, but it's a field with these mass killings. Although it was initiated by the Cold War system, the Asian, particularly Asian countries, suffer from this Cold War system, because Asian countries suffer from the hot internal wars. Even in the 21st century, the politics of excavation, reburial, commemorations are flourishing in every world, including Spain or Latin America, and also Asia. The work of global, national, local mechanisms to redress injustice and promote justice. So we witness this kind of global scale of transitional justice advocacy. But however, public politics and rituals of memory do not replace, abolish private and more traditional practices of reburial and commemoration. So my research gives an example of how these different beliefs, moral ideas, and practices in the public and private spheres relate to the dead and their bodies can intertwine and shape each other. The politics of memory and mourning over the dead bodies are particularly fraught in the case of post-colonial Asia-Pacific region in the Cold War era. So Jeju Island is located on the periphery of Asia-Pacific, the geographic zone that experienced the turbulent decolonization and modern nation-state building, which often involved vicious civil wars and other forms of political violence in the name of anti-communism. the Cheju April 3rd incident in 1948 presents a essential example of regional political bipolarization and masculinism. I explore the ways in which the legacies of Cheju Massacre are intergenerationally transmitted and ritually reenacted in post-memory practices involving spirit possession, the reburial of dead bodies after exhumation, and family ancestral rite. And I explore divergent narratives representing personal and family and official memories of the violent events and their aftermath in post-Cold War era. Why I bracketing post? Because Korea and other some Asian locals are not get over this Cold War era. We are still suffering. So Jeju Island, as you see in the photo, the Jeju Island is in the periphery of Cold War. Historically, Jeju Island has been considered a site of strategic importance and has a continual military presence over the years. We still have this Gangjong issue. Gangjong in the Jeju, in the southern area, constructed as a naval base. But recently, U.S. atomic ship, the Navy ship, was launching there in the naval base. So Jeju is again becoming or joining this kind of warfare now. So we, Jeju people, and also me, we activists still are protesting against this naval base. Although it was constructed, you can also deconstruct or dismantle it. You know, it's the same kind of Jeju becoming a kind of Okinawa island. It's heavily militarized, and people still, I'm sorry, still fighting against this militarization of island. I brought chocolate from Jeju Island. You can take some, so delicious. One is orange taste, another one is what is it? Cactus. It's delicious. At the end of Pacific War in April 1945, the Japanese militaries, over 80,000, set up Jeju as the front line in their defense against the American landing after the war and under the American military occupation. Before the establishment of First Republic in Korea, South Korea, and kind of North and South Korean division, 60,000 people repatriated to Jeju from overseas and also battlefield. Thus, there was a sudden increase in population that had many social, cultural, economic problems. What is Jeju's April 3rd incident, and why Jeju Massacre? It is known as 사삼 사건, literally translated, the April 3rd incident, named after the date of its initial occurrence on April 3rd in 1948, when the Jeju South Korea Labour Party gatherers began armed risings. Actually, these armed risings had a very clear political target and purpose. This armed risings was very small scale, and they wanted to show kind of people's protest against the North and South Korean division after the national election on May 10th in the same year. So only several hundred, I think 200 or 300 gatherers, they were kind of organized instantly among the local youth elites. It was not really a very well organized party or kind of or they are not very well trained in military. They are just like a civilian kind of rebels. The April 3rd incident erupted into a civilian massacre as a planned act of state terrorism toward the Red after the establishment of anti-communist state in South Korea on August 15, 1948, and its wartime policy of preventive custody during the Korean War. So April 3rd incident maybe started in 1948, but it lasted until after the Korean War. So it has a long-term kind of impact on Jeju society. So this is Jeju Island, and you can see this map shows the island by village, and each marked with a number of victims. Total 13,564 in 2013. You can see every village of Jeju Island was, particularly in the mountain areas, they were all completely destroyed by fire and also evacuated, and mountainous village people had to leave their home villages just in just a couple of days, and some remaining in the house, the villages were killed and shot to death. But most of those people who evacuated their home mountainous villages were kept in the kind of temporary camp on the seashore villages, and they examined again there, and they were killed after some of them were a kind of target of this anti-communist kind of tactics, military action. Let me see.
So sorry, is it those with
Darker,
more people killed?
Yeah, more people. And okay, the next slide shows is the most recent one, and Jeju case has more continued. They continue to accept this application for recognition of victims, and now we have 14,000, and the numbers of the victims are increasing now. After Korea society become politically a little liberal, people begin to report about their family victims. During the 10 years of this rightist regimes of Lee Myung-bak and Park Geun-hye, people stopped reporting about the casualties and victims and also damage of house. But just 2 years ago, since when was it? 2017, people begin to report again about their family death and also damages. And here you see this biggest, the darkest number. It's It has a number, I think, about 564 something. And this is the Noyomi is the biggest the village number of victims. And this one, Bukchon, has 443. Next. Okay. So during the Jeju April 3rd incident, over 30,000 inhabitants of Jeju Island were massacred in screening operations and house-to-house searches as part of the suppressive counterinsurgency campaign with the support of American military aid to weed out so-called red. I wondered why Taiwan or scholars do not really pay attention to the influence of American influence in these huge numbers of victims and very violent destructions of the families and houses, and very clear to us. American military aid made some kind of support of this counter-insurgency campaign. Although South Korean government, it was established after August 15th, but the American military aid continually maintain its kind of dominance. Now we have a G2 report. The reports of the secret military service, and it tells very details of the location of their military actions against the so-called Pokdo red insurgents. It is now published. You can read it. These documents made by American military aid, even during this April 3rd incident in 1948, and even after that, until the Korean War in 1950. Most victims of counterinsurgency campaign were local civilians with no affiliation to any ideological position. After the division of Korea, the anti-communism of South Korean state effectively suppressed the memory of civilian massacre and its aftermath for over half century, until the liberal administration of Kim Dae-jung established its first Truth Commission in 2000. And actually, Taiwan or had this kind of Truth Commission much earlier, right? 1991. I think when you published this first report of this, the truth, historical truth in 1992. But in Jeju case, it became rather late. I visited Taiwan to attend the first East Asian Conference for Peace and Human Rights, and also at the 50th anniversary of OERBA, 1997. At that time, Jeju Sasam activists also came with me. They watched how people really are doing, and this Jeju April 3rd activists learn a lot from how to start this kind of transitional justice movement. So actually, our Memorial Museum and the Jeju April 3rd Memorial Museum made the MOU recently in 2015, I think. In October 31st, 2003, the civilian massacre was officially recognized as a historical event of state violence by the government when Roh Moo-hyun president apologized for death of innocents, for the state oppression of survivors who had to endure the severe stigma of the state enemy or red insurgents. And there is a politics of naming and historical truth. April 3rd incident has several different names depending on who take this event for their own experience. It's named as a communist insurgency. It's from a rightist perspective. And April 3rd incident is also considered a popular uprising against the foreign occupation, like American military occupation. And the mass civilian massacre at the hands of the state is another name for the incident. And since the democratization process of the 1990s and transitional justice activism throughout the first decade of 2000s, public testimonies and commemorations have formulated the historical truth of April 3rd as April 3rd People's Uprising. So not just uprising communist but people's uprising, this is a big jump of this politics in the politics of naming. But still, this title or name of the People's Uprising has not been publicly, officially acknowledged. So, unnamed monument, white, empty, kind of blank stone, it still remains in the April 3rd Peace Memorial Museum. And this year, last year, 2018, at the 70th anniversary of the Sasam incident, we tried to get an official title of this incident as a People's Uprising, but by changing the special law, but we failed. These rightist politicians really work hard against this democratic and transitional kind of justice activism. They are really strong. They still hold the strong hand. And I will give you this 4-stage report of transitional justice advocacy. There are 4 stages. First stage, from oblivion to social attention. There is an absolute silence and totally suppressed by dictatorial military regimes. But in the middle of this absolute silence, Aunt Suni, the novel, first short story novel of Hyung Gi-young was published. And the author of this short story, Hyung Gi-young, was investigated by by the CIA, KCIA, and he could not write after them for over 10 years because this torture was so strong, he couldn't do anything. So, but this Aunt Suni novel is about the Bukchon village massacre, which I'm going to talk about for the rest of my talk today. And Aunt Suni is translated into Taiwan language, so you can buy it in different name. I hope this Hyung Gi-young would make a visit to Taiwan during the exhibition coming October at the Taipei or